What's going on, everyone? So, earlier, a couple months ago, we got an announcement that Mark Kincaid would not be Mark Kincaid, and in fact would be Mark Evans, right? They really set up and established that Mark Kincaid would be Sidney's husband, right? It was confirmed by Patrick Dempsey. It was confirmed by Neve Campbell. Like, we got as much confirmation that Mark Kincaid was going to be Sidney's husband as possible. Fast forward, that doesn't end up happening. I mean, Patrick Dempsey literally had an interview like 2 days before it was announced that Joel McHale would be stepping in to play the role of Sidney's husband, Mark Evans. So now Sidney's name is Sidney Evans, not Sidney Prescott, which something that I think is interesting, but we'll save that for a future video. But I want to talk about Mark, right? And kind of that establishment, right? Because there's a lot of different things that they can do, right, with Mark and the family dynamic, which is something that I'm really excited for. I'm really excited for the family dynamic and how are they going to approach that. But the biggest question to me is, are they going to kill Mark, right? Like, would they really introduce Sidney's husband, have Sidney's husband end up being in the fold and being a fixture, and, you know, Sidney's trying to have him survive and whatnot, to ultimately have him die in the very first film that you introduce him in? If it was Mark Kincaid, I might say no, right? Because I think people would have that familiarity. They'd be like, oh man, you have history there. Where this character, like, none of us are really familiar with. No one really cares about him, right? So it's like, obviously from a Sidney standpoint, like, we'd all kind of be like, oh man, like, you can't kill Sidney's husband, right? But I think it would make a lot of sense, right? I don't think it's something that they will do, but I do think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, you look at the history of Sidney Prescott, her boyfriends die all the time, whether they're killers or not. I think you can have kind of the setup where Sidney starts questioning, like, is he involved? Is he not involved type thing. I think it'd also be a good setup and establishment for Tatum, right, who's Sidney's daughter, and kind of the impact and continuation for other films, right? We know Scream 8 is supposed to be in the works, right? So if you end up having Tatum's father die, like, you have that setup. Think of, like, Karen and Allison, right, in Halloween, right? Karen ends up dying, and granted that was the second film, so maybe they do it in the second film, but you kind of saw the aftermath and the impact of Laurie kind of dealing with her daughter dying, and then Allison dealing with her mother dying, right? Like, so it kind of had this like double impact on the main characters that you were kind of focused on. I could see something similar happen where Tatum has to deal with the loss of her father, while Sidney has to deal with the loss of her husband, who was a good guy, and they did have a relationship, and they did build up good, and you can really kind of build him up as, like, the Derek 2.0, this just wonderful man that's this, that, and the other, right? You could kind of have that dynamic, which I think is very fascinating, right? And then ultimately kill him off. Like, you could even, which I've talked about, I really want to see them kind of raise the stakes for this film. You have something that has never happened in the Scream franchise, which is a Sidney, the family dynamic, period, right? That you have, like, family has always been kind of an underlying element of Scream, from Maureen to Roman to, Mrs. Loomis to Richie's father, right? Like, there's always been, Jill even, right? Family elements to it. But this is the first time we've had an actual family being targeted by Ghostface. You also add in the fact that Sidney Prescott has never had that, right? Like, Sidney Prescott she's only been responsible for herself. She's only ever been responsible for keeping herself alive. Obviously, she's wanted to keep Dewey and Gail and, Randy and these others alive, but ultimately she wants to keep herself alive, right? Where now she finally has people that she would put above herself, right? Like, she's not going to want her daughter to die. She's not going to want her husband to die. She's not going to want her little children to die, right? Like, she's not going to want any of that stuff, and she would do whatever it took in order to keep them alive. So you have the stakes raised, period, just because Sidney's now in positions that she has never been in. She's more vulnerable now than she has ever been in. And I'm really excited and looking forward to kind of exploring that dynamic. But I also could see you, and I almost think that it's probably the best route, is have something set up and established where Sidney has to make a decision. Sidney has to make a choice. Sidney is now in this position to where it's like, maybe the husband and Mark, as well as, Tatum, her daughter, are both captured. And now Sidney has to make a decision on which one do I let survive, right? And Ghostface is like, we can kill, and they're like both dead to rights or something like that. And it's like, you can kill Mark, your husband, your loving, kind husband, or you can kill your daughter, right? Who has been the vein of your existence the last few years or whatever, because she's just rebellious or whatever, right? Like, you can have some kind of story and kind of try to spin it and do all these things. And look, you don't have to kill Mark and Katie. You don't have to kill Mark Evans if you don't want to. There are ways to kind of go about it in another manner, but you could save them both. Gail comes and saves the day or something like that. Like, there's ways and routes to go about it. But me personally, I wouldn't be against them killing Mark Evans if done in a proper manner, right? If you do it on a proper approach to where you have kind of, I don't want him to like turn a corner and boom, that's it. He's just done, right? Like, I want it to be something like, I would love to see him maybe save his daughter or save Sidney and ends up kind of getting taken out. And then we all got to go like, oh no, like, I want there to be purpose. I want there to be reason behind it. I don't want it to be just as like, oh yeah, we just killed him just to kill him, right? I want it to be something where, there's purpose to his death, right? Dewey, he died. There was purpose to his death. He helped save, Sam and Tara, right? Like, he helped serve a purpose. He did what Dewey does, right? I want to see Mark end up, if he does meet his end up meeting his end in a appropriate manner, rather than just like, we're just going to kill him just to kill him, right? And then also, I think that'd be an interesting dynamic to kind of set up for Scream 8, to where now you're dealing with the aftermath of that. Now you have Sidney, who just lost her husband. You have Tatum, who just lost her father. And now they have to deal with those struggles. And then the little children having to deal with like, oh, daddy's not here anymore. Daddy's not home anymore, right? Like, and I just think that it's a very unique point that you could have in the Scream franchise that you just have never really had. Yes, it's a little dark. Yes, it's a little, messed up, but it's a slasher horror franchise. Like, it's not supposed to be happy-go-lucky rainbows and sunshines, right? And this is also something, like, if you keep having Sidney in the films, right? Like, she's not going to have a happy ending. You can't have a happy ending if you're constantly being attacked by Ghostface, right? So, anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Feel what your thoughts? You agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle? However you feel. Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.